these French workers are part of a far-left labor union. They accuse the government of supporting businesses at the expense of workers through its proposed labor reforms. Such protests are a familiar sight in Paris, and they've blocked successive governments from changing labor laws. But this time, the biggest unions are at the negotiating table with the government, not on the streets protesting against it.
Employment is fundamental. We need to create jobs. We need this labor law to free employers. It's not us against workers. It's not about having the bosses on the one side and the employees on the other.
Standing at 9.5%, France's jobless rate is twice as high as other major European economies. The government wants to make it easier for companies to hire and fire workers and reduce the influence of labor unions. And it's making it easier for companies to offer temporary, project-based jobs. The government is also capping the maximum fine on companies for wrongfully sacking employees.
A major measure, very strong and powerful, aimed at all companies, whatever their size, will be the possibility to quickly adapt to increasing or decreasing market trends through simplified majority agreement between employers and workers on work time, remuneration and workplace mobility.
The parliament has already allowed President Macron to implement these changes by decree. But with the opposition planning a mass march against the new law, the government may still face challenges in pushing through its agenda for reforms. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Joining me now is our editor-at-large Craig Copetas. He's in Miami. Craig, welcome back to the show. You're normally based in Paris. What are your sources over there telling you about how French workers and unions are responding to Macron's plans?
36 measures, 5 decrees, and the unions, although many are complaining, they're going to have to go along with it because this will not be put to a vote in the National Assembly. These are decrees, and all it requires is passage by the French Constitutional Court, which it's going to get. Macron is calling this, believe it or not, he's calling this a Copernican revolution. That should give you an indication of how deep the divisions are here. As you may recall from science class, a lot of people thought that the sun orbited around the Earth until Copernicus said, no, the Earth orbits around the sun. So these labor laws go back quite a few years, and there will be street protests, and some of the unions are on board, some of them aren't.
Well, I don't know about Copernicus, but it's certainly going to be a Herculean challenge for him. But look, you're in Miami, and there's a big French community over there. How are they responding to all of this?
Well, the French community abroad all voted for Macron. But the ones that we've been speaking with here over the past 48 hours, they're not going back. And the reason they're not going back is because they've settled abroad. According to French statistics, over 90% of the diaspora is college educated or better. These are the people Macron would like to bring back. On top of that, you have the French ambassadorial corps like Gerard Araud, the French ambassador to the U.S. They're trying to sell this to people here, saying that France intends to modernize while respecting the tenets of the ancient social contract, which is going to be an impossible task. And they're actually pointing to Macron himself as to why they believe these reforms aren't going to work. Last week in Bucharest, Macron was speaking to some of the diaspora that lives in Romania, trying to get them to come back to France. And he said that, quote, France is unreformable, and that the French, quote, hated reform. So this does not engender good feelings among French people abroad. You know, there's 142,000 of them in the United States, closer to 150 actually, about, packing up and coming back to France.
Well, you can kind of understand why there is resistance. I mean, some of the reforms that he's talking about make it sound like the environment he's creating is very much like what we're seeing in the UK and the US, the gig economy, zero-hour contracts, that kind of stuff, less job security. Yeah. Are French people really ready to embrace such a change?
Look, the labor laws are almost 4,000 pages in length. France operates with what you might want to call the sugar daddy principle. And here's how it works, Azar. Under these new reforms, a factory can shut down if it's not making money. And in the past, what France said, well, the factory here might not be making money, but the company that owns it, that's a big global company, makes a lot of money. So you shouldn't shut this down. Let the sugar daddies abroad support the plant, the factory. That's going out the window. And that really infuriates the unions. And there will be demonstrations on September 12th, on September 23rd.
Okay.
And we'll see how this plays out.
Okay. Craig Copetas in Miami, thank you ever so much.